All right, and we're live. Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2021. 2020 was a bit of a year for a lot of people. Let's hope travel reopens again in 2021 so we can go and explore the world. And today we actually have a travel show on one of my favorite destinations, Ethiopia. I've been to Ethiopia a few times and it's just such an incredible place. There's so much to do and we're going to talk about that a little bit soon. There is also just a really unique feel about Ethiopia. It's so underdeveloped and they've seen so few tourists that it's still very raw and authentic. And I really love that about the place. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. If you've never joined us before, my name is Nate Taiaroa, and I have been traveling in Africa for more than 10 years. I've also been living, volunteering and guiding over there for about the same. I'm super passionate about Africa. Some would even say I'm obsessed with the place. And I'm also really passionate about finding ways to make a difference in the world. And that's one of the reasons why I started Adventure Out Loud, who are an African travel company. We've been taking people to Africa for a while now, and we can't wait to get back to doing that as soon as borders reopen. And one of the things that makes us really unique is that we donate 50% of our profits to keep disadvantaged children in school. We believe education is one of the best ways to fight poverty, and that's the reason why we donate 50% of our profits to keep kids in school. We also specialise in the off the beaten track type experiences. So a lot of people offer safari in Kilimanjaro, and we do that as well. However, we really like giving people the really authentic experiences that you've never heard about. And that's the whole purpose of Nate's Big Five, is to really outline some places you've never heard about, inspire you to travel somewhere new and get off the beaten track. And we offer tours and private itineraries basically from Egypt all the way down to Cape Town. So we cover most of the east coast of Africa. And as I said, today we're talking about Ethiopia. And if you don't know where Ethiopia is, it's in East Africa. So just above Kenya. And it's an incredible country. A few unique things about Ethiopia is they run on a 13-month calendar, which means that if you want to forget 2020 ever existed, you can go back to Ethiopia because they're not there yet. You can rewrite history. So they're a number of years, normally 7 or 8 behind where we are because of the 13-month year. They also run on Ethiopian time, which kind of makes sense because they start the clock when sun comes up. So that's 1. And then there'll be 12 hours while the sun's up. And then it starts back at 1 for nighttime and runs 12 hours until the sun comes back up. So that's a couple of unique things about Ethiopia. They're also the only country in Africa that has never been colonized. So they were occupied by Italy for a while, but they were never fully controlled by a colonial power. Of course, the other exception to that actually is Liberia, which was created as a country after colonization or the colonial period. It is also the birthplace of coffee, which is cool. So if you're a coffee drinker, there are plenty of coffee opportunities in Ethiopia. Often there'll be coffee ceremonies, and this is a whole event. It's not just sitting down for a quick cup of coffee, it's a whole event, which is pretty cool. The first African to win an Olympic gold medal was an Ethiopian. He actually ran the marathon. He signed up for the marathon a few days before the event, and he ran it barefoot and won. And he was also the first person to go back to back and win gold medals for the Olympic Games, which is pretty cool. If you're a vegetarian, Ethiopia is also a great destination for you because from Wednesday to Friday each week, they fast. So it's a very Orthodox Christian culture. And from Wednesday to Friday, they fast, which means they don't eat meat. There are also a lot of vegetarian and vegan options during or any day. And if you've never had Ethiopian food, try and find an Ethiopian restaurant near you and check it out because it is incredible. It's an experience in itself. Comes with this huge injera, and then think kind of like Indian curry kind of dishes on the top that you eat with your hands, same as you would with a naan. It is absolutely delicious. Definitely something to look forward to if you visit Ethiopia. Welcome, Kim. Happy New Year. I don't think you can talk to us right now, but we'll have a chat after as well. But welcome along. Obviously, if you're live on Facebook, you can join the Zoom and you'll find the Zoom links on our Facebook as well. Otherwise, obviously, you can watch later on YouTube. So let's get into what you can do in Ethiopia, because there is so much and most people have never heard of a lot of these things. So Lalabella's churches, which are 13 UNESCO listed churches, are probably the most famous thing or the most famous tourist attraction in Ethiopia. And think of a big mountain that's a rock, and these churches have been carved out of the rock. So you can see here, this church is actually carved down into the ground, and they're really, really unique. And you actually get to walk through these 13 churches, usually over a couple of days. And it's absolutely amazing to think that these churches built in the 13th century are still in such good condition, and that people chiseled them out with probably a chisel and a hammer, some kind of contraption like that. It's really, really unique. So most people go there. I would allow about 3 days if you want to go to Lalibela. I think that's a good amount of time. It is quite touristy, so I don't think you want to spend a lot of time there. But it is definitely worth visiting. You can get there very easily on a 1-hour flight from Addis Ababa. The other great thing about Ethiopia, it has some of Africa's best high altitude trekking. So in the Simien Mountains and the Bale Mountains in particular, they've got a lot of different trekking options that range from proper organised tours, where you might say go to the highest peak, which is 4,500 meters, so pretty reasonable, double the height of our highest mountain in Australia anyway. Or it could be as simple as you can find a local guide and a horse and go for a bit of a horse ride hybrid, so you don't have to carry your bag. It's really, really unique, the trekking in Ethiopia. Because you're going to high altitude, you definitely need to make sure you leave 4 to 10 days to reach those kind of altitudes. A lot of Ethiopia is actually above 2,000 meters, which means that when you fly in from Australia, you need to allow a little bit of time to acclimatise. 2,000 meters, you'll probably be okay. But once you start going above 2,500 meters during your trekking, you need to make sure you're allowed time to acclimatise. Again, one of the great things with Ethiopia is it's really easy to fly from the capital Addis Ababa out to these regions and then start your trek. I see Val's joined us. Happy New Year, Val. I've got you on mute, but welcome aboard. And I know you're super excited about coming to Ethiopia once travel reopens. Val's told me that some of her, or she's got a password for something we won't mention, that's Ethiopia 2022, to give you a feel of how excited she is. My favorite thing about Ethiopia is actually, rather than going to Lalibela, actually going to a place called the Geralta Mountains and visiting the cave churches. Now, during the Crusades, Christians built their cave churches up in high places for 2 reasons. 1, so that the raiding armies couldn't find them and destroy them. And 2, it's believed the higher you are, the closer you are to God. So these cave churches are built up huge cliff faces, and it's basically just a cliff face chiseled out into a cave. And in there, they've got pristine churches. Local legend says they date back to the 4th to 6th century. I think more realistically, it's around the 8th or 9th century, but it's still super old. And some of the paintings in these churches are incredible, definitely worth seeing. I don't know if you've all seen the promo video, but definitely jump on our YouTube or our Facebook and check out the promo video, because it has some footage of these churches and it'll give you a bit of a feel of what to expect. And this one here, this is my favorite one. So you might be able to see just where I'm moving my mouse to the left of the camera, there's a little ledge along there. And so after climbing up the side of the mountain, you walk across a ledge that's maybe about 1 meter wide. And on one side of this is a rock wall. It's maybe 1.5 meters wide. And on one side's a rock wall, and the other side's a couple of 100-meter sheer drop. So this is for the adventure seeker in anyone out there. Super incredible. The mountains are just amazing there. And the best thing about this church is I was in it for about 2 hours. That's how captivating this area that was about the size of your bedroom was. And it's, you know, we were the only tourists there for 2 hours. So there were 2 of us there for 2 hours. It's really, really amazing. Now, if you go to this region, they also have some great trekking opportunities outside of the churches. So a lot of the churches will be a day trek, but you can actually link up the churches into, say, a 5 to 10 day trek where you go through multiple churches and stay in local villages. And that's something super authentic. So if you like getting off the beaten track, that's definitely for you. If you prefer a little bit more comfort, Wookro Eco Lodge is where you want to stay. This place, I describe it as like a Camelot. They've built these amazing, I suppose you'd call them little cabins out of rocks. And to sleep in one of these is really amazing. This is the big admin building and the restaurant areas. And you can kind of see it's kind of a old castle feel, like a medieval castle. Really amazing place, kind of mid-range, but still reasonably priced. Accommodation in Ethiopia, there's not many luxury options outside of Addis Ababa. There are definitely some mid-range options, and this is one of the best ones. Staff are incredibly friendly. They've got a restaurant and a pool, so everything's covered there. They do all your washing. It's a really, really amazing place, particularly when you go to this place, which is also in the same region. And this is the lowest volcano in the world. It's the Denical Depression and Dalol region. So this is actually below sea level, is the altitude in this region, which is kind of ironic because in one day you could be trekking at up to 4,000 meters, and a couple of days later you could be at 50 meters below sea level. That's the uniqueness of Ethiopia. And this place here is also the hottest place on earth. So you do need to choose when you're going there, because there are definitely months where it is unbearably hot. It is amazing though. It's one of the only places in the world where you can see these kind of formations and colors. And it's also there's a huge lake, a salt lake very close. So you actually get to go and see the men that for hundreds of years, possibly thousands of years, have chiseled salt, and that's their job. So in 40-odd degree heat, they'll be out there chiseling blocks of salt, loading them on their camels and taking it to market. And the Denical experience includes all of that. So you go to the Salt Lake area, see them working. There's some really incredible little hidden swimming oases there. So you can check them out and go for a dip. You could even take a snorkel and go for a little explore if you want to get adventurous. Then you can go to this Denical Depression, and they also have one of Africa's few permanently active volcanoes called Erta Ale in this region. So you can also add a volcano trek. So you're probably already getting the feel of Ethiopia has something for everyone. There is so much to do in Ethiopia, and most people don't go there. There's about 1 million people that visit Ethiopia every year. Super underdeveloped for the amount of great things they have to offer. Another great one is Ethiopia has some actual medieval castles. So these are built around the 16th century. And this one here actually survived World War II. It was occupied by Italy and bombed by the UK, so the Allied forces. And I think there's 13 castles in this region, and this one's the most intact. It's also one of the oldest, so it's really incredible to walk through some of these castles. Think like the experience you have in Europe, but you're getting in Ethiopia, which is even cooler because you just don't expect there to be castles in Ethiopia. If you go into this region, which is also a trekking region around Gondar, you also want to go and visit our charity partner in Ethiopia. And even if you don't travel with us, let us know, because we'd love to have you go and visit St. George School. Education in Ethiopia, you've probably all seen the World Vision ads, and you remember them from the famine years in Ethiopia, and it's all grim. Definitely things have gotten a little bit better since then. However, there's still many, many children who miss out on school. And across Africa, there's 111 million children today that aren't in school. Ethiopia has some of the highest truancy or out of school rates in Africa, to give you a bit of a feel of the situation. And the great thing with St. George is they offer a free education and high quality education to disadvantaged Ethiopian children. They've got about 450 kids now, I believe, and that ranges from grade 1 to grade 7. So what they did is they started with grade 1, and then when those students moved to grade 2, they added a year. So every year they're adding an extra class into their school. One of the amazing things with St. George is a sponsorship starts at $30 a month. It is super cheap, and you'll make a huge difference to a young child's life. Being able to visit the school and teach them English and interact with the students, go visit one of their houses, meet their families, cook a meal with them is really incredible. And this is one of the best experiences you'll have in Ethiopia. So couldn't rate this one higher. And it's also for a great cause, and you really are making a difference in these children's lives. As I said, even if you don't personally sponsor at St. George, if you decided to go there, 50% of the profits when you travel with us go to sponsoring kids through school, and St. George is one of our beneficiaries. Some of the other great things you can do in Ethiopia, and I won't run through all of them in detail because there's just too many. Ethiopia has more than 80 different tribes, and a lot of these tribes are some of the most unique tribes in Africa. So going to visit some of these tribes and really immersing in their culture is an incredible thing to do. You've probably seen the photos on David Attenborough and so on of the tribes that have the big lip plate there in Ethiopia, for example. So they have some really unique tribes. There's cultural tours you can do, there's coffee tours, there's cooking tours. You can go to a coffee ceremony. And you can also go and visit Lucy in the museum in Addis Ababa. If you don't know who Lucy is, she's one of our first ancestors. She's the first discovered full Homo sapien skeletal structure, I suppose might be one way to say it. Really incredible to see, and very educational because they walk you through the history. And really, the thing that struck me when I went there was how much smaller they were back then to what we are now. Like, she would be not much higher than what my waist is. So it's really incredible to go and see that for a couple of hours as well. There's also another couple of museums there. Or you could go to Hurra, which is an amazing, I think it's about 1,000-year-old walled city down towards southern and eastern Ethiopia. And that's really unique because for hundreds of years, they've been feeding the hyenas in that region. So you can actually hand feed a hyena, and it's ethical in that region. You can hand feed a hyena, which is something pretty incredible. So much to do in Ethiopia. I won't run through absolutely everything, but that's to give you a bit of a taster of all the amazing things you could do. Hopefully it inspires you to jump on Instagram, jump on Google, jump on our website. There's a really great blog on there about Ethiopia. Jump on our Flickr and you can see some more photos. And obviously that video on YouTube as well will also tell you a little bit more about Ethiopia. Now, a couple of things you might like to know is the best time to travel to Ethiopia is between October and July. The other months are really quite warm, and that's why they're the best months. Sorry, the other months are really quite wet, which is why they're the best months to go. Average elevation, 1,300 meters. So it's pretty high because a lot of Australia is more at the 20 to 50 meter kind of elevation. So even when you fly into Addis Ababa, you're flying into about 2,000 meters. If you're planning an itinerary yourself to Ethiopia, my advice would be to budget about $150 to $200 US a day If you want to be more that mid-range to luxury area, if you want to backpack, you can definitely do Ethiopia cheap, but you do have to be prepared to catch multiple day buses. The reason why I allow a bit more buffer in Ethiopia is because you really do want to fly. It's going to make your experience much more enjoyable. However, local flights are not super cheap. A tip for you though is to make sure you fly in on Ethiopian Airlines, because if you fly in on Ethiopian Airlines, your domestic flights are more than half price. So much cheaper to fly in on Ethiopian, show your ticket and book it at the desk than what it is to pre-book them. Obviously, you do risk missing out on flights, but just a tip for the budget-conscious travellers. If you want to go to Ethiopia, definitely allow at least 10 days. As you saw, there is just so much to do. If you want to do all that, you probably need more like a month. There is just so much to do. It's a big country, and getting between all those destinations can take a bit of time. So just make sure you factor that into your itinerary. Obviously, if you're not sure where to start, give us a call. I'm always happy to have a chat, happy to plan a personal itinerary for you. Or I believe all things going to plan and vaccines rolling out, borders should be pretty open by late 2021 or early 2022. So we'll be planning a group tour of Ethiopia in either late 2021 or early 2022. We'll know a little bit more in a few months' time. Now, obviously that's a lot of me talking. It's the highlights of Ethiopia, but I wanted to open it up to anyone on to see if there are any questions. And also if you're watching live on Facebook, you can message on Facebook and I'll try and answer them. If I miss them, I'll post the answers up later. Does anyone have any questions?
No.
No?
No.
Great. Well, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. My email is nathan@adventureoutloud.me. And you can also reach us on the mobile number here, 0432036879. I'm just checking, 1 second. I think there might have been a chat question come through. Deb says, when are we going? Deb, as soon as we possibly can is my answer to that. It is incredible. Val's on that board. Val can't wait to get out of Australia and go exploring. We have a lot of people who had already booked onto the Ethiopia tour for October last year. So they'll all be coming as soon as they can. There are still a few places left, but I suppose the tip for you would be now, we don't know exactly when things will open, but I suppose it's worth starting to look at what you might like to do in 2022 now that we're about a year out, and starting to plan that in. It will always be a little bit flexible until we can get a feel for how effective the vaccine is and what that might mean for borders open. However, planning a year in advance would allow you to start paying your trip off. And the great thing about our group tour for Ethiopia is it's actually pretty cheap. So 3 weeks for Kilimanjaro Safari, you're looking more around the 9,000. In Ethiopia, you're looking more like 6,500. So it's quite a cheap destination compared to a lot of the other East African countries. Very good. Well, hopefully I see you all in Ethiopia soon. We have another Nate's Big Five coming up on the 17th of February at, again, 6 p.m. Brisbane time. This one's on Virunga National Park, which is Africa's oldest national park. Absolutely magical, magical place. It's the only place in the world where you can trek with chimps in the morning, have lunch with gorillas, and be on top of the world's largest active volcano in the evening. So join us for that so you can hear more.
Oh, wow.
Really, really unique place. Definitely more for the experienced traveler and someone who's got a higher risk threshold. Would not recommend for your first African adventure. But join us so you can hear a bit about it so that you can dream for one day.
And there is a great movie, well, on Netflix about Virunga.
Yes.
And it's also managed by the Belgian prince. Sorry, had to say it.
No, that's a great tip, Val. Thank you for reminding me. There is a fantastic movie on Netflix. Check it out, Virunga, Virunga. Definitely worth it. It's a documentary about the national park, and I suppose there's a lot of corruption throughout Africa. So the film talks a little bit about that, and the only way this national park survives is through donations and tourism. And the Belgian prince that Val just mentioned gave up his royal life, I suppose you might say, to go and manage this national park to preserve this area, because it's known as the lungs of Africa. So this park is as important as the Amazon is to South America.
Yeah.
And there's so many species, there's 22 primate species just in this region, to name one. There's hundreds and thousands even of different other species and plant species, bird species. So this area is really, really important, and his life mission is to preserve it, and more than that, empower the local people, because there's 4 million people that live in this park, empower them through creating ways for them to make money. Rather than having to poach animals like gorillas, how can they make money so that they don't need to eat bushmeat? So check out that Netflix, absolutely amazing. We'll talk more about it on the 17th of February, and look forward to seeing you all over there. As I said, give me a call if you want to talk about Africa. Things are starting to move in the direction of travel opening up, probably somewhere at the end of this year, early next year. And I cannot wait. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
Definitely.
Good night.
Thanks.
Bye.